What's up guys, Ben here bringing you another video today. I've been obviously heads down grinding the Modern Warfare 2 beta. More on that coming in my next couple of videos. But for now, I wanted to dive in on a few pieces of news that we heard over the last couple of days in regards to some head coaching and coaching spots. I want to talk about who is filling those spots, what it means for the rest of the coaching carousel, and tie that into some other remaining outstanding items and open spots in the coaching realm. Let's dive in. All right, the first piece of news that we got, and this was late last week, is MarkyB has officially left Toronto and joined the Los Angeles Guerrillas. He will be filling the head coach role on that team. I think for LG, this is a pretty good get. If you consider that Mark's done some good work on the Toronto side, taking that team from being a mid-pack team to a contender in Cold War. And I know last year they didn't have the best of years, but they were pretty much there or thereabouts most of the season. I think as well on the LAG side, you know, it's been 3 years of, let's be honest, some mediocre gameplay from this team. I know, look, they did win a championship this year, but in the context of the whole year in general, it seemed like sort of a fluke weekend compared to the rest of their performances. And I think as a result, we've seen Bevels leave that role and now he's a free agent. We've seen Ricky kind of join management on team ops side and go away from coaching. So they have a completely open kind of roster of coaches they need to fill now. So MarkyB's coming over and will run that squad. My next big question is who is actually going to be the analyst for this team? I know in the past, Doug Lieb has done a lot of work with the COD team, but he's moved on to new things. When Mark was over at Toronto, he had Flux, and it seems like Flux might still be there. So I'm very curious who they're going to bring on as an analyst. Again, keeping in mind that JP is still out there, I think LAG is potentially an option, but we'll get to him later in the video. So yeah, I think in summary, I like this move for LAG. It's a big loss for Toronto. Obviously now a big giant question who's going to be main coaching this team. I haven't really heard much on rumors on this front. I've been trying to dive in and see, but it's been a little bit quiet on their front. So I wonder if they're promoting Mayhem up to be head coach. Maybe Flux is going to become head coach. I don't know yet what's going on in the Toronto situation. So I'm going to keep diving in. And once I get news for you guys, I will report. The next bit of news, and I feel like this flew under the radar a little bit, was a tweet from CDL Scrum Intel that he's expecting Troy Sender to be joining New York Subliners in combo with D-Real, who New York Subliners will be keeping on for another season. I've also heard the same on the New York side. This is sort of the combo coaching that they're going forward with for the new season. Obviously, New York hasn't announced their full team yet, and it looks like the New York squad is going to be Kismet, Skies, Priesta, and Hydra. There's a curious move for me, to be honest, and I want to kind of talk about this further because it seemed like at sort of the offset of Rostermania when I was hearing about Troy leaving OpTic, I think the sentiment was, and sort of my kind of thought process was, he's potentially leaving a really good situation in Dallas with that OpTic team, an organization that really takes care of their players and their coaching staff. And I know he's stuck under Rambo and Ray's going to be kind of that guy, but it's a good situation to be in. And if you're leaving that, you're probably then looking for a full head coaching job where you're running the staff. But now I'm really curious what the situation is with New York, right? Is he going to be the head coach? Is D-Real going to be the head coach? Or are they going to make neither guy the head coach and it's going to kind of be like who sort of fights for it? It's definitely a weird situation. So I'm waiting to see what New York announces on this front. Look, if Troy's eventually going to be the head coach of this team, I like the move if you consider that there's real only options at this point in terms of like quality squads are going to be either New York or Toronto. And I like the New York team. I still think, again, the biggest thing in the New York camp is trying to set some kind of culture because the last couple of years have been drama incident after drama incident after drama incident. And one of the expectations whenever you bring on a head coach is to set that culture and, if you want to use this phrase, the locker room, so to speak, to be really focused around trying to overperform and get to events and your matches and play well. I think Troy can bring that. So again, I'm curious to see what this combo will do. Keeping in mind, by the way, that this team also does not have an analyst, just like the LAG situation with JP moving on. So let's talk about the final situation. Not really much news on this front, but again, as we've talked about, a lot of teams are missing either an analyst or a tactical coach, and JP obviously officially left New York as of last week. He's been linked to a lot of different teams, and I think on his end, he's in a very good spot. I think to really negotiate the situation that works best for him. I mean, we talked about it. LAG needs an analyst. He could obviously theoretically go back to New York if something crazy is about to go down. I think for me, his best landing spot is probably OpTic. And the reason for that, I think, is very simple. One, I think that Rambo Ray, and has talked about it on his streams, that he's very old school in his mentality. And bringing in someone like JP that comes at it from a different perspective to the issues that OpTic has, and we've talked about on prior videos, right? They play really well at the beginning of the season and they kind of slip. Once you get past a certain point of being behind the other teams, it's really hard to catch up. And so I think JP coming in potentially the situation could kind of help sort of be an early warning system on when these issues are arising from a purely analytical perspective, and gives kind of Ray the ammo he needs on the institutional front and the man management front. And I think the second point is since the OpTic MV merger, I think some of Hastro's sort of priorities and how he builds organizations and coaching staffs may come into play here. Tracker. Traditionally, Hasbro's teams, and he's coming from the Envy side of the now OpTic organization, has really been to dedicate a lot of resources to the analytical and analyst front, whereas the sort of Hector OpTic side has been a little bit more of a feel old school vibe. I think bringing, again, JP in sort of completes that process and gives a really good pair to Ray, especially with Troy leaving. But keep in mind, I could see JP going to LAG. They definitely have the resources to pay him what he wants. Is that the best situation for JP? That's a question mark. I don't really know what his relationship is like with Mark. Obviously, the other issue with LAG is I think that team is a little bit more of a project. I didn't really talk about it much when we covered the MarkyB side of this, but from my perspective, I think the kind of roster they're going to roll with of Hook, Neptune, Spart, and Arcides to start the season is a bit of a question mark. And yes, bringing in good coaches maybe stabilizes that a little bit, but I would say the OpTic situation of them running it back with their team from last year is going to have more upside and also probably a little bit better success long term. LAG is going to probably have to make a couple of changes, and I don't know this year if they're going to be sort of the full-on contender. Do they want to build out of that project? So yeah, that's really it on the coaching front. Obviously, we got news on MarkyB locking his spot on LA Gorillas. We have a couple of outgoings officially. We're trying to figure out where JP's going. We talked a little about Troy Sender potentially going to New York. That's an interesting move. And now we got the outstanding questions of where is JP going to go? Who is Toronto going to make their head coach? Who's going to be the analyst for teams like LAG and New York? I think we're going to get some more news on this over the next couple of weeks. And once I have an update for you guys, I will push out a video. Let me know in the comments what you think about some of these moves. Do you like what you see from your team? Do you want to see something else? Are there potential other candidates that are not really being talked about for some of these jobs you think should be considered? Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, guys, if you liked the video, smash that like button, subscribe. As always, we're going to keep pushing out content for you guys every single day on this channel. And always, guys, we'll see you on the next one.